day, everybody. Welcome to the morning meeting. It's October 7th. It's a special day of remembrance around the world, particularly in Israel, where the wars continue on multiple fronts, and the country is commemorating this day. Here at home, the day also will be commemorated by all of our presidential candidates, by President Biden. I'll run through that in a minute. We all have talked at length for the last year about the impact this has had, not just in Israel, but around the world, and certainly in the United States, where there's been a lot of soul searching and division, unfortunately. Here in New York City, there are protests planned, size of which is unclear at this hour. But the vice president will be coming to New York by the end of the day. Donald Trump is here now, and we'll see how they interact with what is sure to be a day of intense emotion around not just New York City and the United States, but around the world, and certainly in Israel. And we all, whatever your politics are, whatever your thoughts are about what happened in terms of responsibility and what's happened since the loss of life in Israel and in the region is heartbreaking and continues, unfortunately. And will, as people have started to point out today, will almost certainly continue for the next president, whoever it is. If you want to be part of the discussion today, please raise your electronic hand if you're part of the two-way platform here. We'll get to as many of you as you can. As always, we love new folks who haven't spoken before. Please have the confidence and courage to join us in a conversation of peace, love, and understanding. If you're watching on YouTube, welcome also. Glad to have you with us and appreciate you being part of the two-way community. Vice President, as I said, is in Washington today, but ends her day in New York at 4 p.m. She and her husband are doing an event at the Naval Observatory, the Vice President's residence, where they will plant a tree, and then the Vice President is supposed to deliver remarks at 8 o'clock tonight. Her full 60 Minutes interview airs. Not sure if we'll get clips before then. I suspect we'll get at least one for evening news, so we'll be on the lookout for that. Later in the week, the Vice President, or not later in the week, but tomorrow, the Vice President in New York does a bunch of media interviews. We're going to talk about that today, not with traditional journalists. And then on Wednesday, she goes to Las Vegas. On Thursday, she participates in the town hall. And then she goes to Arizona before coming back to D.C. As I said, President Trump starts the day in New York, where he visits the gravesite of the Rebbe in Queens. That is something he's done before, and it's of great symbolic significance for many Jews in the United States. And then he flies down to Florida, where he does an event at 6 p.m. Eastern time at Trump National Doral commemorating today's event. Tim Walz is on the West Coast, and Senator Vance is in D.C., where he's appearing in an event commemorating the anniversary, speaking at around 1:30 Eastern time. Doug Imhoff does an event with his wife and also has his own event this morning at the American Jewish Committee's National October 7th Memorial Commemoration. President Biden also has an event this morning at 11:45 commemorating the day. White House briefing is at 1:30. All right, guys, that's a lot. Let's just start with the reality of the war continuing on multiple fronts and maybe escalating, but the prospects of a peace plan quite limited. Sean, between now and Election Day, how do you see the issue of the Middle East playing out between Trump and Harris?
I just don't, I've never thought foreign policy is a big issue. It's a very niche issue from a political standpoint. I think obviously there's this plays big in Michigan, and that could be huge when it comes down to the margins there. Unless something goes much bigger, right? So that there's a larger retaliatory strike that garners more attention. It's been a year, and I don't think that we've seen, outside of these niche groups within the Democratic Party, I don't see it having a huge effect.
Dan.
Yeah, I think actually recent developments, and I'm speaking purely politically, are somewhat beneficial to the Democratic Party in that this is becoming more about Israel versus Iran, and that is more unifying within the Democratic Party than when this is about Gaza and Lebanon, which, as Sean said, divides the party, states like Michigan, young voters. I also think, and you saw this with Tim Walz on Fox News Sunday, he smartly pivoted towards, as this gets more intense with Iran, who do you want in the Situation Room? And he pivoted to reminding people about what former Trump national security officials and generals have said. And I think they're trying to make the best of it, again, speaking purely politically.
Can I, Mark, I don't want to get into stuff. So I'll put a pin in this, but I'm getting to the age where if I don't say it, I forget it. I am sort of amazed. Dan brought up the Fox News interview, how little play that's gotten. So I'll put a pin in that because I know we're going to.
The interview overall, or specifically what he said about. Yeah.
But
Okay.
see all of the above. So
all right, we'll talk about that when we talk about media strategy in a moment. Let's listen. The only clip CBS has put out so far from 60 Minutes is about Israel, and also JD Vance was on Fox and Friends this morning. So let's listen to the two sound bites. First Harris on 60 Minutes, and then JD Vance on Fox and Friends. 101, 105, please.
The work that we have done has resulted in a number of movements in that region by Israel that were very much prompted by or a result of many things, including our advocacy for what needs to happen in the region.
Do we have a real close ally in Prime Minister Netanyahu?
I think, with all due respect, the better question is, do we have an important alliance between the American people and the Israeli people? And the answer to that question is yes.
Kamala Harris has sort of been at the forefront of threatening to stab our allies in the back. And because of it, we have a war that has gone on for much longer than it should have. Frankly, if the Israelis weren't able to do what they do best, I think this thing would have been over months ago, and we could have been on the pathway to rebuilding a Abraham Accords, a Middle Eastern peace process that unites Israel with some of its Arab neighbors to provide a counterbalance in the region to Iran. What we have now is, unfortunately, Iran is empowered. They're richer than they've ever been before, and they are emboldened to attack not just Israel, but a lot of really important American assets in the region, American economic interests, and unfortunately, it's all been emboldened and all been encouraged by Kamala Harris's weak leadership.
So, Sean, I generally agree with you. The foreign policy doesn't usually play that big a role, and that in this case, the Middle East, although there's daily discussion of its impact on the race, not really some sort of linear impact. I will say, though, that on both Ukraine and Israel, Trump, Vance say Biden was too weak to stop these attacks. He was too timid in not providing the necessary weaponry to allow our allies to win an early victory. And now he and Kamala Harris are left with, two more endless wars. That seems to me to be a big part, not the biggest thing they talk about, but a pretty big part. And given that she is, untested as commander in chief, as much as Democrats like to say Trump was a failure at foreign policy, that seems to be at least something they can say in some quarters that potentially effective. Dan.
I mean, here's my answer on that. If this issue matters to you, you know who you're voting for, right? There's a lot of issues that are part of the campaign dialogue.
But we've had Democrats on this platform say, I'm voting for Trump because of Israel.
Right.
So
okay. But I'm saying but I guess what I'm getting at is right now, as this thing moves forward, which is kind of your question, I don't think you're going to see any change, right? Right now you've picked a side. And so right now there's not going to be a lot of movement because of this issue, unless something, extravagant happens. It's not going to have, there's a spectacular event maybe, but not.
It's a little rich, though, to say, there's been criticism that, Democrats are wasting money, arming in Ukraine, and they, rather than putting the money at home and then turn around and say, you're not giving them enough aid. And I mean, I remember when this first started, Trump was saying, when some of those images emerged from Gaza, he said Netanyahu needs to wrap this up quickly. It doesn't look good for him. So, I mean, this issue has bedeviled both parties for 40 years, and it's not going to stop on November 5th. I
agree with you, and I agree the points you made make it rich, but at the same time, it's a fact. It's a fact that both attacks occurred when Biden and Harris were in the White House. You can say it's a coincidence or it's nothing to do with them, but that's just a fact.
Nick Kristof had a pretty scathing op-ed this weekend in the New York Times, and he is no friend to Donald Trump and is about as progressive as they come. Yeah.
All right. There's tons we could say about the Harris Waltz media strategy, and I know Sean wants to just kick the teeth in on the Fox News appearance, but let's talk first about, I think people have created a false dichotomy. There's nothing wrong with her doing these alternative venues. Everybody does them. Trump does them too. Trump's been on controversial podcasts. But the point is, unless I'm wrong about the 60 Minutes interview not being super hard hitting, she's doing the exclusion of doing interviews that would reveal serious policy. So being on a podcast that's popular with women, going on a defamed Howard Stern, I think everybody thinks those are smart ideas to reach a new audience. But Dan, if she continues with this, she's not only not solving her problem that we hear on this platform of people saying they want to know what you do on serious stuff, but she's exacerbating it because people who are insulted by this strategy are just having it shoved in their face.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it needs to be all of the above. She, as you say, she needs to do these niche. She needs to do the, mainstream, whatever you want to call it, press conferences. I mean, James Carville, David Axelrod came out this weekend publicly kind of pushing as well. She needs to get out there because the good news for Harris is voters are still open to her. She just has to, fill in those blanks. And so, yeah, absolutely. She should do all the above.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's this group of Kamala curious folks that she's not helping solve the problem with, right? And I've been practicing this all morning, so I just want to I apologize it's not ready, but it's not a media blitz. This is my Schwarzenegger kind of like the media is trying to create this sense that it's a media blitz. She's doing Colbert, The View, Howard Stern. And I agree with you. Like, that's good for her, smart. The more niche audiences you can read, the better. But it's a bit cute by half. We're going to avoid everybody that's got a press pass. And I don't, again, if I could get away with it, I would do it myself. But I don't think she's helping herself. And I will say, I go back to what I've said over and over again. She part of the thing is that when you watch these interviews and you saw the clip of her with 60 Minutes that came out, even the Call Her Daddy podcast clips that have come out, because I didn't watch the whole thing, I don't think she inspires confidence when she answers a question. And that's the problem, is that there's so many easy answers to questions that I might not agree with, but they're easy answers and she can't get there.
Or you can see her head spinning, almost like a lawyer.
She's picking her way through them, trying to get through it without a mistake. And I mean, these are not, shouldn't be hard questions. Maybe, but look, this is a similarity that I know a few people have pointed out, but I don't think it's been pointed out enough. So I'm going to do it now. When Biden was having trouble after the debate, all of his allies said quite publicly, look, he's just got to go out and do it. He's got to do town halls. He's got to do interviews. He's got to show he can do it. And we know why he didn't do it, because he couldn't do it, right? So the question is, why isn't she doing it? You watch that 60 Minutes clip and you wonder, and again, this is not a novel point, do they think she can't do it? They obviously think cost-benefit analysis would hurt her. Maybe they don't think voters want to hear her say serious things. They just want to see her on podcasts and with Howard Stern. But there are a lot of people who say explicitly they'd like to see it, and they're not seeing it. All right. I know you want to talk about Waltz on Fox. He's doing his own media blitz. Let's just show Sean 104, and Sean can tell us why he wants to talk about this. 104, please.
This puts the decision with the woman and her healthcare providers. The situation we have is when you don't have the ability of healthcare providers to provide that, that's where you end up with a situation like Amanda Zaworski in Texas, where they are afraid to do what's necessary. This doesn't change anything. It puts the decision back on to the woman, to the physicians, and we know that this is simply something to be brought up to be very clear. Donald Trump's asking for a nationwide abortion ban.
Wait,
and again, we don't see this as a winning campaign.
He has said repeatedly that he will not sign a national abortion ban. Are you calling that it's a flat-out lie?
Yes, of course. And Senator Vance has in the past said so too. Now look, they may see this as an election issue. We see it as a right of women to make their own bodily decisions. And that's what the states like my state have the ability to put that in. States like Georgia force women to cross the border, and then we have a death of Amber Thurman.
Look, we could spend literally an hour parsing the lies that he just told, okay? The question that Shannon asked, by the way, was about the Minnesota law. The Minnesota law that he signed specifically dealt with the responsibility of a doctor when a baby is the survivor of a botched abortion. And it allows the doctor more latitude as to, quote, what to do. Before, it was very clear that the doctor in a botched abortion had to provide medical care, had to. Now it watered it down to saying it is up to the doctor's judgment to do that. That's a fact. That's what she asked him, and he pivoted. So kudos to him for pivoting, okay? From a political calm standpoint, he did the right thing. But the reality is he didn't answer the question, and he lied about the Trump-Vance position. I think, again, this is something that is interesting because the media, in particular, people like Kirsten Welker have lied about this. Margaret Brennan, all the folks have lied about the reality of the issue, which is that what Donald Trump and the Republicans have taken issue with is that Democrats have made the issue of abortion viable up and through the 9-month and changed the law with respect to medical care that's provided to a baby, a human being that survives an abortion. That's a fact. And that's what he avoided.
Dan, do you want to comment on what Sean just said?
Look, I think Democrats obviously focus on Roe versus Wade. And I think that when people hear about abortions in the 9th month, sometimes people try to portray it as, you know, the woman 2 weeks out from the baby being born says, oh, I don't want this anymore, right? And that is uncomfortable for a lot of Americans, as opposed to there is a medical issue, there is something that has gone wrong, some new information, which is a much more personal and hard decision for a woman to make. And I think that, you know, as Sean said, if the baby is born, then what do you do? That is a different situation. Science is advancing all the time. I think a lot of Americans, it's not black and white for them, right? There's so much nuance in this issue. But look, politically, I understand where Republicans are going. This is the best hand they have to play on an issue that is a challenge. And I know, Sean, you're pointing out that Walz isn't answering the question. And as you say, he pivoted. But I think this is a very tricky conversation for most Americans.
No, I don't doubt that. And I guess my point, though, is that you have the media lying about the attack that Republicans, the video / audio that former Governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, said, who's a physician, isn't disputable. Right. He said it. Those are comments that he made. And when Republicans quote him and say, this is what former Governor Northam said, that's not fact checkable.
I totally hear you. I just,
all right. We're going to canopy the whole show on this. All right. Raise your hand if you want to get a question, and we're doing one more thing, and then we're going to you all. All right. I'm going to ask you about all 7 battleground states. And it's not you're not asking to predict who's going to win. Who has the edge now? Who is the edge now? You can say Trump, Harris, or I'm a weasel. If you don't want to say, you can't say tie. You just say I'm a weasel. All right, here we go. Dan, Arizona.
Trump.
Sean.
Trump.
Both correct. Got our sound effects? Maybe. There we go. All right. The state where Las Vegas is. Dan.
Weasel.
You have to say, I'm a weasel.
I am a weasel.
I'm a weasel. Sean.
Yeah, there you go.
No. Don't put your title on me, son. I'm going to go. I will give Harris today. If we play this game by the end of the week, I might be there. But right now, it's toss up to her.
Sean is correct.
Okay.
Dan gets a buzzer. Sean gets a bell.
All right. Both.
Yeah. Georgia. Dan.
Trump.
Sean. Correct. Wisconsin. Dan.
Harris by a sliver.
Sean.
Trending Trump. It will be on election day. Hers maybe today.
I take that as I'm a weasel. All right.
Oh, it's explaining.
All right. Yeah. Okay. Michigan. Dan.
Harris.
Sean.
Same as before.
Yeah.
Same as before. Harris or trending Trump?
Same. It's she could pull it out today. It will be Trump's on election.
Okay. Georgia.
Trump is trending in both those states, but I think she still has a slight lead.
Okay. Today. Dan, Georgia.
Are you Trump?
Sean.
Oh, Trump.
North Carolina. Dan.
I'm a weasel. I think it's tied. I think she's still in the game there. Very much.
All right. Sean.
I might take the title this time because I think it is a tight state. And I think the issue, just to clear, I think the storm effect. I mentioned this. I talked to Chairman about this last week on Friday. That there is a big issue about get out the vote efforts in Western North Carolina because of the storm.
Yeah. All right. The weasels are correct. They are correct, Sam. There we go. All right. Lastly, what we call in Philadelphia the big cheesesteak, not the big enchilada, but the big cheesesteak. Pennsylvania. Dan.
Trump right now.
Sean.
I'm sorry, say that again. I've got people on the text.
Pennsylvania.
Oh, Pennsylvania, we got that. I mean, by the way,
Yeah.
if
You don't
haven't
have
seen
it, but you have it
posted this.
today.
By the way, I will say this, and NBC picked up on it. I'm not saying just because I posted it on Instagram, but I'm saying it's possible that Steve Kornacki follows me. If you look at the registration numbers, where they've gone from 2016 to 2020, they've cut that registration unbelievably big. Counties like Fayette, Lucerne, moving Democrat to Republicans, but the Republican voter reg in Pennsylvania has gone massively in the right direction. And that's where, again, I think data matters. If you look at where that registration is coming from, not just in those, but throughout the state, it's that red area is getting redder, and a lot of the areas that Democrats were holding has flipped as well. So I feel very, very good about Pennsylvania.
Hilariously, I see data experts on both sides saying the state's going their way. So we'll see. All right,
But
welcome in.
I don't understand when you can make an argument on one way or
I'll
another.
send you one. I'll send you one. It was compelling. All right, Jeffrey, welcome in. Thank you for joining. Tell folks who don't know where you are and who you're supporting, and then what's on your mind, please.
Yeah, I'm Jeff. I'm on the North Shore of Chicago supporting Harris. And I just wanted to lighten the mood just a little bit this morning. I wanted to call out Sean Spicer. I don't know if you can see this. This is back from the Emmys in 2017 on our way to the governor's ball. And this was right after you left the White House and you were just so free and you just felt like you were emancipated. So you were just...
what were you doing there?
What was that?
What were you doing? I remember it very. In fact, I was trying to convince. Anyway, my kids still.
Why were you at the Emmys, Jeff?
Yeah, so it was a live auction item that I won, and plus the firm that I used to be with does the ballots and stuff like that. So I would
awesome. Awesome.
So,
all right.
Anyway,
is that all you want? If that's all you want to do, that's enough. But do you have a question or
comment?
No,
I just have one question, and that is, the president sets the tone for the nation, and we all know what Trump's rhetoric has been like, and people around Trump, what the rhetoric has been like. So putting policy aside, my question is, if Trump wins, will that tone, that divisive tone, continue into his next term? Or if Trump loses again, will he not accept the results of the election and just continue to divide the nation? So I wanted to get your perspectives on that.
Those are great questions, but we don't accept hypotheticals. So moving on, just kidding. Sean, what do you think? Will Donald Trump victory or defeat become kinder and gentler, or can we expect him to just continue to be this?
I think what you see is what you get. You are not going to see Trump is Trump, and you're going to see him be the same person he was in 20 if he wins. By the way, which I will say, I think there are a lot of moments where anyway, I think you're going to get what you see. We'll keep it at that, but I do think there's opportunities. If he were to lose, I think the margin would matter. But I think two things that I think are a mistake. One, this idea, I know he said it in the Cheryl Atkinson interview, the idea that he's not going to run again, like somehow that's the definitive answer on that. I wouldn't be so surprised if he continues to tease it, but you're definitely not going to, he is not going away.
Yeah. Jeff, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for joining. Dan.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to add that I think while...
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I was calling on the other Dan.
Go ahead,
Dan. Dan, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, who you're supporting. And then
Los Angeles, Kamala Harris.
Yes, sir. And what's on your mind today?
I feel like almost a single issue voter at this point, and it's really having to do with J6 and everything in his behavior, and the whole campaign rhetoric, the rally at Butler was just very. I'm almost emotional about it right now, because it just to go out and say that Democrats are trying to kill him is just beyond anything, and I just don't understand the support for this man, and I wish Sean could just really explain that to us.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I think that everybody's got values as far as what they prioritize, right? I look at, with all due respect, and I say this sort of in the I look at people who support Kamala Harris and I go, how can you possibly, at a time when the world is this perilous, put somebody like that in charge? How can you put somebody that wouldn't tell us what their positions are? How can you put, I mean, I look at the policies both socially in terms of life, tax policy, domestic policy, what she's done or not done at the border, her handling of foreign policy, and go, how can you possibly put the country in the hands of somebody like that? I think we value different things. We come to issues in a different way. But I think that we view like, and I don't want to presuppose you because I don't know anything about, but I'm saying one who supports her versus me. I look at Trump. I don't excuse all of the behavioral things, but at the end of the day, one of the things that's interesting to me, I was talking about somebody this the other day. There are issues that both sides have paid lip service to. I think Barack Obama is one of the most gifted orators that politics has ever seen. I think that a lot of Republican candidates have paid lip service to conservative causes. But if you go down issues that conservatives really care about, going back into the early 80s, and look at Donald Trump's list of accomplishments from tax policy to foreign policy to the border, to me, I don't really care whether he's the best messenger or not. He got it done. In the past, we got told why we couldn't get it done or why we had to settle. And so to me, I look at this more of as a record of accomplishment. And I go, you know what? Sometimes it's like if your stockbroker is a complete jerk, but your returns are up 150%, you go, you know what? I'll take a little, of inappropriate talk if it's going to yield me. If my doctor's doesn't have the best bedside manner, but I get well, there's certain things. And so does Trump say all the right things? No, but he delivers on issues that I care about. And I think for a lot of Americans, he shows that he's willing to fight and he's willing to get results.
Can I ask one more follow-up?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
If I took it from CNN, I can take it from you.
Thank you. At what point for you do we draw the line? Because it keeps getting pushed and pushed and pushed. At what point, what does Trump have to do for you to not support him?
I mean, it would have to be an issue, right? So if he came out and said, I unequivocally don't support the following 5.
I'm talking about behavior, though.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to go through a list. I mean, you could, with all due respect, I don't find it.
Ask Democrats with Bill Clinton in the 90s. I mean, it's hard to try to say what conduct issue, is going to be a breaking point for a politician.
Yeah. And I would say this. The other thing is, and this gets back to the nut of your question, which is I look at stuff and go, you guys on the left, and apologies again, I'm not trying to make this personal. It's just a turn of phrase. I mean, I saw a million things that she has lied about, obfuscated about, that Tim Walz has lied about. My question is, where's the line? A man gets up there and lies about his military rank, about serving in combat, about IUI versus IVF, stealing an award from the Chamber of Commerce in Nebraska. I mean, where's the line for you? What more does he have to embellish or lie before you say Tim Walz has a record of lying in history? What point did Joe Biden have to get to cognitively before there was an admission that he actually wasn't fit to serve? What point the tables can get turned pretty easy. Democrats think they have a monopoly on this. And it's just amazing that at some point, look in the mirror and look at your own candidates and say,
isn't conceding elections, I mean,
so where was your concern with Hillary?
They all lie.
Hillary Clinton talked about it for 14, 15 different ways. Russia stole it. He's not a legitimate president. When was that a line for you? When Sheila Jackson and others got up in the House of Representatives and opposed the counting of electors twice, 2 different times over 2 different cycles. Where was the line for you then? Why didn't you speak out in your party?
She went to a microphone and conceded the election.
Huh?
She went to a microphone and conceded the election.
Stood there over and over again for the next 4 years and said it was illegitimate, it was stolen, it was interfered with. I mean, so that's it's okay for, as long as you say one thing, then you can say the others. Is that, so you see my point? Your line is, okay, as long as you say one key phrase, then you can object to it, you can spread disinformation, you can lie about it, you can suppress things. It's okay as long as you say a key phrase?
Respectfully, I think there's a huge difference. Respectfully.
Okay. All right. We're going to leave it there. I think everybody can draw their own conclusions about that exchange. Sean and Dan, thank you. All right. Warn our stations. We're going to run a little bit over. Jeremy, tell everybody who doesn't know where you are, who you're supporting, what's on your mind.
Hey, this is my first time doing this. I've been watching it for the past couple months. I am from Missouri, and I am voting for Trump. I am a blue collar union worker. And is it okay if I respond to the Dan from Los Angeles?
You
Is that
can,
okay?
but he's still there. And Jeremy, thanks for joining. We love first timers. So please respond to Dan. I'll unmute him and you two can have at it in a respectful way, of course.
Yeah, of course. So Dan, Trump is he's an outspoken business guy from New York. The politicians say just as bad things, but more nicer and more of a political way, like calling him a threat to democracy, Hitler, calling him a racist, rapist, every name in the book. So is that fair for Trump just to turn the cheek and just act all nice to everybody, or what?
Well, if you'll remember, he started his campaign with the birther lie that Barack Obama was not born here. So for me, in my perspective, he's created this environment, rallies with throw tomatoes at the counter protesters, all this. He's fueled this
I don't
environment.
agree. I don't agree with that because the media attacked him right away because they saw that he was a threat. They saw that he was probably going to win, and Hillary knew it, and everybody knew it.
He started birtherism before he even declared as a candidate.
Hold on 1 second. That's all right. He started birtherism, outrageously so, and then was booked on all the networks who seem to have accepted it. Jeremy, what will America be like if Kamala Harris wins?
I think the economy right now. So I am a married man. I have 3 children. My wife had to go back to work. She was a stay-at-home mom for the past 7 or 8 years because my job was able to support us. I think that it will almost be impossible to survive for affordability. Right now,
hold on just that one point. Dan, what do you say about that? That for people like Jeremy who worry about Kamala Harris's management of the economy, how confident are you that she'd manage a good economy?
I mean, I feel like Biden and Harris have put us in the right direction. We're not there yet. Obviously, people are suffering and it's not great, but we're in a lot better position than we were, what Trump left us, in my opinion.
Dan, how would you characterize or summarize Kamala Harris's economic philosophy?
I think she has some new ideas that I haven't heard, before from, at least she's engaging in the idea of giving first-time homeowners, a break and whatnot. And I think it has to get a little more clearer, but I think she's got some ideas.
If Trump's for lower taxes, less regulation, more energy production, and increased tariffs, what would your comparable list for her be? Not individual policies, but kind of her philosophy. Broad strokes.
At this point, because she's such a new candidate, I think she's going to piggyback on the Biden-Harris administration and continue on that and add to it.
So what's their philosophy of being good stewards of a good economy?
I don't know right now.
All right. I think that's part of the problem. But thank you. And Dan, thank you for joining. Jeremy, you want to say one more thing?
I'll give you a little example to everybody that's listening. So my natural gas bill, they have like a 3-year to 5-year, outlook of what I paid, in the past. It is up 71% right now. I am paying on my natural gas bill monthly. So that's just a little, window of how much more I'm paying a month on bills, food, and everything.
Now, Jeremy, how old are your kids?
I have a 8-year-old, 7-year-old, and 3-year-old.
And are the economic struggles you're dealing with impacted them at all, or have you been able to insulate them? How so?
Well, my 8-year-old, we had to tell her this year we can't afford to put her in soccer because they had to raise their prices around a couple $100. Just birthday parties are a lot smaller. Christmas is going to be a lot smaller this year, stuff like that. So it really sucks. And
Yeah.
I hope if Trump does get elected, I don't expect it to turn around instantly because all the damage that the current administration has done, but I feel like he can turn it around again.
And Jeremy, just to double back to the point that was made originally, how do you feel about Donald Trump's role in the events of January 6th?
I feel like he is 10 to 15% responsible. I think he was just pissed off, excuse the language, that he lost. And he was trying to maybe get lucky and find that there was enough fraud or whatever to maybe overturn it back or send it back to the States. And also he probably felt betrayed by Mike Pence. So I give him around 15% responsibility in it. But I also think the Democrats are very smart and they plan ahead. And they also use that. And they also had government officials involved in that also. So they can use it against him when he ran again.
All right, Jeremy, thanks for coming. We'd love for you to come back. If you don't come back, and even if you do, we all want to wish you a Merry Christmas right now. And even if it's smaller, we hope you and your family have a great fall and winter, and really appreciate you joining and being so thoughtful in your comments. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We'll continue to watch what's going on in the Middle East, and announcing now, although announced in the newsletter this morning, many of you wanted a regular time for my evening program and you wanted it to have a name. You asked, we delivered. 6 p.m. tonight. Sean, I know that's a great time for you. 2-way tonight.
Head-to-head.
Launches. Head-to-head. Spicer versus Halperin every night, 6 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Starting tonight, we're going to talk about what's happening in the presidential campaign. And we'll talk also about what's Israel and what's going on in Israel. My colleague from International Intrigue, Mr. Fowler, who's been on 2-way before, John Fowler, the great newsletter, will join us. We'll have other guests. And of course, as always, we welcome your participation. So again, starting tonight until Sean cries uncle and moves to a different time slot to avoid the direct competition and the humiliation in the ratings, I will be on every night through the election and beyond, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope you'll join. You can get the link to watch on 2-way or on YouTube, on Twitter, on my Twitter, or on my Substack. Greatly appreciate it. And Sean, you're welcome anytime. Find a substitute host.
Like I said, I think that people, you can look. I'll be honest. I think it's just people can watch whatever one they want live, and then go to YouTube and watch Mark's show after.
Yeah. Dan, no reason for you to pick publicly, but I'll see you at 6 tonight, and the three of us will be back tomorrow. Grateful we got some new folks on today. As always, sorry we didn't get to everybody. Hope you'll come back tomorrow morning, and I'll take plenty of questions at 6 Eastern time. We have a full hour rather than this truncated pygmy of a program. Thank you for watching, Dan, Sean. Thank you both. We'll see everybody at 6 p.m. tonight, and then 9 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow. Same bad time, same bad channel for the morning meeting. Have a good day.